This is Kevin F. Pope with the Pope's Perspective, here to talk about stop motion animation. Now, I'm a fan of all different types of animation, but I do really love stop motion animation.
In some degrees, stop motion animation is actually similar to live action filmmaking, except you're filming at a smaller scale and at a slower process. Now, with old school cameras, you used to wind the film backward and then wind the film the other way, and thus capturing simultaneous pictures, and you get to see the movement of your subject.
To film stop motion animation, you wind the film back. Usually there was a button on the camera, press that button, and it took one picture. Go back to your models, move your models some, and then go back to your camera, take a picture, and continue the process. And in the result, after a long time, weeks, months, years, it's a long process, you get these moving characters. Now, stop motion would create other challenges as well, such as if your model fell over in the middle of a shot, you would have to reset the shot and start over. We have digital cameras today, and you can actually go back and watch the shots that you already filmed. But back in the day, you couldn't do that. You had to get these shots right on that take, or you had to redo it over. Sometimes you didn't know there was a mistake until you look at the footage weeks after you've been working on a shot. And so I admire the people that worked on stop motion animation back in the day, because it was such an art form and you had to really put your heart into it and maybe even start over on a shot, and just, it really was time consuming, but at the same time it's still fascinating because you're taking this inanimate object and you are bringing it life. And I just love stop motion animation. Now, I want to get a pet peeve out. I don't like the term claymation. Okay, claymation, oftentimes it's stop motion, they use clay figures that they're moving, but I don't like the term claymation because it's not talking about the process. It's not always clay. I mean, you could take anything that you can, any object you could take and move, you could turn into stop motion animation. Okay. Now, over the years, there have been some shows. I grew up watching a show called A Claymation Christmas, and that one, yes, it is primarily clay, and that's what they called themselves. Okay, I'm okay with that, and that was kind of a fun little show. Also, the same people were famous for creating the California Raisins, if you remember them. That was a small little tangent, but that's okay. But I don't like the term claymation because stop motion animation talks about the process. I'm going to be talking about primarily theatrical stuff, okay? So I'm not going to really go into television fare, though some of it may have a connection with television, but primarily stuff that was theatrical, okay? You won't hear about the Rankin Bass stuff. However, there is a lot of Rankin Bass stuff that I do love, and I want to save that for a future video. They did a lot of holiday stuff, so probably sometime around the holidays, either this year or an upcoming year, I may have a video on the Rankin Bass stuff. But right now, I'm just going to talk about some multiple stop motion films that I particularly enjoy. Now, I have not seen every stop motion film ever made, so I can't talk about all of them, and these are, it's primarily, it's my favorites, some that I really enjoy, okay? Now, there's some good films out there that are in stop motion. I saw a film called My Life as a Zucchini, and it's pretty much this story about this kid that ends up in an orphanage and kind of just befriends the other orphans, whatever, and other things happen in this film. It wasn't a bad film. It was a sweet little film, The only thing with that film that really got me when I was watching it, I'm just like, I don't really see a reason why this film was in stop motion animation. I didn't really feel like it added that much to it. I felt like the film could have been in live action. So I guess you could say, like, what makes a film, like, why is this film in stop motion and why not in live action? And the truth is, I don't have an answer. But what I can say is certain films that I have seen in stop motion that work, they really work. So I'm going to talk about those films, and this is a multi-part video breaking up into like different genres or companies or maybe even a director or style or things like that. So this first part is going to be some miscellaneous stop motion films that I particularly enjoy. Now the first one I want to talk about is A Town Called Panic. Now this one is based off a television series which I have not got a chance to see yet. After seeing this film, I want to see the television series. Apparently it's these little short 5 to 10 minute segments with these characters in the premise of this show. And basically the whole idea is you have these little plastic figures, okay? Maybe some of you grew up with these and maybe you've seen them. You can still find them in the stores. And they basically just walk around and go around this little village, this town. The main story revolves around horse, cowboy, and Indian. So they're these little horse, cowboy, and Indian figures, okay? And the funny thing is, like, cowboy and Indian are like these little kids, and horse is pretty much the leader and just kind of keeps in charge. It's like, hey, you two, stop that, blah, 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 blah. So he's kind of the parent figure. And just the whole idea of seeing these little figures, like you'll see horse, and it just hops in like the bathtub. It's like, oh, I'm taking a shower. Oh, you see the shower going down on the horse, and then the horse gets out. There's just some humor in that alone. And the show's in French with English subtitles. And it's just so funny seeing the interactions. There's a part where horse goes to the music school and meets Miss Longuet. I think I said that right. Miss Longuet. It's like, oh, hello, Miss Longuet. Oh, hello, horse. How is this? Oh, yes, good to see you again. Oh, you should take some music lessons. Oh, I would love to take some music lessons. Well, let's go sign you up. Yes, let's go. That's kind of the style of what you have throughout this show. Now, as far as the storyline goes, the film starts with cowboy and Indian trying to find a birthday present for horse. It's this simple little storyline that it starts out with. But as it goes along, they decide, like, oh, we're going to go get some bricks and we're going to go build horse barbecue. Well, they get the brick and then they accidentally order too many bricks. They mean to order like 50 bricks and they order 5,000 bricks because they accidentally push the key down on the computer when they're ordering the bricks and it's on the zero, so it goes all these zeros. So the bricks show up, this truck, here's your bricks, they go up, oh good, let's make this barbecue. Another car comes up, here's your bricks, and there's more bricks come. So, what do we do with all these bricks? We ordered too many bricks. And from there, it just goes, the story goes off in strange directions. This film, like, as I was watching this film, as it went along, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to tell you what happens because it just, you're like, holy crap, where in the world is this film going? It just goes off in these really strange and odd directions, and it is just delightful to watch. And it just, from watching the beginning of the film, you would never anticipate, like, oh, it's going to this? What in the world is this going into? And it's just, it's a lot of fun. A Town Called Panic. I strongly recommend this one. So much fun. I do want to see the television series, so hopefully in the future I will track that down and may do a little bit review, a little bit more on A Town Called Panic. But let's move on. Now, the next one I want to talk about, I'm just going to talk about a little bit on this one because you may hear a little more about it in a future video. I won't tell you when, but you may hear a little bit more. And that is Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox. Now, Wes Anderson is just released Isle of Dogs, which is his second stop-motion animated film. Unfortunately, in my area, it is not currently playing. And so I have not got a chance to see Isle of Dogs yet. I'm hoping to see that soon. But Fantastic Mr. Fox. This was the film that introduced me to Wes Anderson. And anybody who knows Wes Anderson knows he has a very distinct style. Everything is like so perfectly in alignment. Like, if I was doing a Wes Anderson film, I would be like perfectly in the center. I'm probably not. I'm not Wes Anderson, so I'm not going to try. And he just has this very quirky style and the way that his characters talk. So Fantastic Mr. Fox is definitely a Wes Anderson film. But it is also an adaptation of a book by Roald Dahl, my personal favorite author ever since I was a kid, and a stop-motion animated film. And they all blend beautifully. I mean, this film, if you like quirky, if you like Wes Anderson, you're going to love Fantastic Mr. Fox. And even if you're not a big Wes Anderson fan, you might still like Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's a fun film, and just he basically goes with more of some of the jerky movements, and it's a personal choice that they made for that film. They got the animal fur rustling. You can tell, like, oh, the hands on the movement. It's a fun film to watch, and there's different moments, like when Mr. Fox is eating. So he's voiced by George Clooney, and he's sitting down at the table, and he's just talking to his wife, voiced by Meryl Streep, and he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, honey, but I don't want to live in a hole anymore. And then she puts his food down, and he's like, because he's an animal, and just the way he's eating, it's just like, it's a little humor like that. So Fantastic Mr. Fox may not be for everyone, but it's definitely worth checking out. That ends the first section of my stop motion videos. My next section, we will be talking about Aardman Animation, who have been in the industry for a while and put out some really great stuff.